Alrighty. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. I'm just going to check my mat over there. Hey, thanks for joining me. Let me put something in the chat. Feel free to put questions or comments in the chat at any point. And let me know that you can see me and hear me and all of that good stuff. Thanks for joining in today. I really enjoy and look forward to these midweek classes. They're a really nice way to kind of connect with everybody and do some movement together. And what I thought we'd do today is do a little bit of hip work, focusing on the, hey Daniela, hey, good to see you too. Do a little bit of hip work focusing on the adductors. So I think the adductors, the muscles of the inner thigh, are really interesting. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Gabrielle. That's super useful. Yeah, I've got like the AirPods for you guys and then this thing for the recording at the same time. So there's like a few overlapping pieces of technology happening. Yeah, so working on the adductors today, which are a pretty interesting muscle group in the sense that they have this primary function of, squeezing the legs in towards the midline or crossing the leg across the midline. But they also pitch in with all kinds of different movements and functionality in the hip joint. So because of their sort of multifunctional nature, they are a really useful muscular group to be able to recruit appropriately. And similarly, that means that kind of the flip side of that is that the balance of the hip musculature becomes even more important because the adductors have a tendency to also have to pitch in a little bit more if there's other muscles around the hip that are maybe not doing their job quite as well, which means that they can get a little bit overworked or cranky or just kind of tight in some people as well. And then all you need for class is have a blanket. And then if you've got it, grab one yoga block as well. That'll be kind of handy at some points, but not strictly necessary. All right, so let's get started. Give me a moment to make my way back over to my mat and start my little timer. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a moment. Hi friends, and welcome to Yoga Medicine Online. I'm Yani Tarma, and this is going to be a 60-minute movement class where we're going to hone in and explore some potentially untapped capacity and strength in the hips. So specifically what we're going to be looking at is the musculature of the adductors, which form the kind of inseam of the thigh and run all the way up into the groin. And aside from doing this really important job of adducting the leg and the hip across the midline like this, the adductors have this really fascinating functional role as a sort of jack of all trades. So they generally stabilize the entire pelvic ring. They have a really useful fascial connection into the muscles of the core as well. And they pitch in with a lot of different movements and functions in the hip in general. So that means that they are a very useful muscle group to be able to access and get to know and recruit appropriately. The kind of flip side of that is that if there are muscles around the hip that are not quite pitching in or maybe doing their job quite as well as they could be, the tendency is for the adductors to have to pick up that extra work, which can in some people lead to them being kind of irritated or overworked or tight or crampy. And there isn't that much in the yoga practice where we really intentionally target the adductors in a really isolated manner in a strength capacity. So part of what we'll be doing today is kind of modifying a few familiar postures to be able to access these muscles a little more readily. Now, all you need is a blanket. You can leave that off to the front of your mat. And then if you've got it, grab a block as well. And we're going to actually start down on our backs. You'll need one of your props with you. So if you've got your block, bring that. If all you're using is a blanket, bring that. And then we're going to begin on our backs. Let's have the knees bent. And then you're just going to set the feet down onto the mat, walk them over to the edges of your mat, and then let the knees drop in towards each other. So just kind of passively allowing the knees to rest in. Just support themselves and each other here. And then just closing the eyes if that feels comfortable for you right now, or maybe just letting the gaze get sort of unfocused and hazy if that feels better. Now, just really broadly speaking, you'll allow your body to get heavy and sort of relaxed and soft on the mat here. Maybe taking a sort of broad sweep with your mind's eye or your awareness from the top of the head down to the feet, not feeling like you have to spend too much time on any one particular area or detail, but just getting a really big picture sense of how your body feels today. And then bring your attention to your hips and into the lower body in general. So just feel that unit of the pelvis and the lower extremities settling in their own discrete way onto your mat. And then see if you can visualize a line or connection more or less from the inner knee, maybe just above the inner knee, running up through that inseam of the thighs, all the way into the groin itself. Is it possible to maybe intentionally allow that area to slacken a little bit? Could you almost feel the muscles there draping or hanging or kind of tenting down towards the floor? And if that sensation is felt all the way up into the groin itself, then maybe it can also radiate up and out into the inside of the pelvic bowl and even the lower abdomen. Take another moment here just to feel without needing to put names or words to any of the sensations or try to analyze or understand anything beyond just that initial sensation of how this area feels for you right now. Lovely. And then feel free to keep your eyes closed or the gaze kind of soft here. You're just going to very gently separate the knees, but keep the feet planted where they are on the edges of your mat. And then start to carefully sway the knees side to side. And as you go through this windshield wipering motion, see if you can implement just a little pause with the legs dropped over in either direction. And can you connect to that sense of the inner knee being connected all the way up into the groin? As the left leg drops to the left, pausing there to feel that, and then the right leg drops to the right, feeling the connection from the right inner knee into the groin there. And maybe the pause is really small, but you're just giving yourself enough time there to reestablish and really feel that connection, which might be really subtle if you're more naturally kind of flexible, or it might be very noticeable if you are naturally more tighter. Just allowing this to be mild and subtle. Good. Take one more little sweep side to side here. And then the next time that the knees are passing through the center, let's just pause there. You're gonna hug your right knee into your chest and then extend your left leg long out in front of you. Now, flex your left foot and just lightly press forward and down through the left leg. So that becomes a sort of anchor or base here. And then just using your right hand, you're gonna guide that right knee over to the right. So just letting it drop a little bit out to the side. And again, we're not going super far here. You're gonna take the right hand to the inside of the right thigh or knee, and then press the leg up into the hand and the hand down into the leg. So there's no movement, but you're just gonna feel that inner thigh area engage here. And see if you can find a balance of effort and ease here. So maybe we don't need to tense the jaw or the neck here as we do that. And just take another breath in, another breath out as you now release the effort. Bring the right knee back into the chest and then switch it out. So left leg comes in, right leg extends. Let's take a moment to activate and anchor that right leg. So flex the foot. Imagine that you could press forward and down through not just the heel, but the whole leg here. So you're sort of anchoring the pelvis here so that then as your left leg starts to move out to the side, that movement is really coming out of the left hip joint rather than the pelvis tipping to the left. So you'll just pause wherever it feels like a natural, sensible endpoint. Bring that left hand to the inside of the left knee or thigh, and then just press the hand and the leg into each other so you feel, again, that connection all the way up through the inseam of the leg into the groin in a really kind of vivid, emphasized way. And then maybe just dial it back a little bit if that helps you to relax through the shoulder, through the face. Perfect. And then with your next exhale, let's bring the left knee back in towards the belly. Now, set the feet down on the mat again, knees bent, feet over to the edges of the mat, and just take another little set of windshield wipers here to reset. And just notice if things feel different or maybe just your awareness of that area is different here. Now, last little thing here, grab your block. You're gonna place it underneath your pelvis on its lowest height. If you're using your blanket, you'll do the same thing. You'll just fold it up into a little kind of chunky shape that elevates your hips a little bit. And then you're gonna lift your legs up towards the ceiling. Now, your legs don't have to be perfectly straight or anything like that, but it does help if the feet and the knees are more or less stacked over the hips. So this is gonna make it not so much a hip flexor exercise, but really honing in on the adductors instead. And you can relax your arms down. Now, as slowly as you can, you're just gonna start to let the feet separate and the legs drop out to the sides away from each other. As slowly as you can. And see if you can also make the movement happen at an even rate, not just in each leg, but between the two legs. And for me, this is actually quite difficult. Like, the movement is really jerky and happens in little chunks or segments rather than a smooth arcing motion. So you're just noticing the control that you have there. And at some point, gravity is going to kick in and sort of pull your legs further apart without you having to do as much. And maybe at that point, it becomes about resisting gravity so that you can really slow the movement down and keep it controlled. Now, pause at something that feels like an end range here, and then just come out of that like an inch. So move your feet back in about an inch. Let's pause and hold. Now again, even with a little bit of effort here, can you now soften through the face and the neck? And then reversing that really simple movement. So can you now, as slowly as possible, as smoothly as possible, try to bring the legs back to their starting position? Is there some aspect of this that feels a little bit harder to manage or just more challenging in some way? Maybe it's a strength factor or coordination. Or maybe your feet are close together now. Maybe they're still a little bit like a foot or a few inches apart. You're just slowly bringing them back together. Good, and then pause there. Even with the feet lifted here, can you allow that whole inseam of the leg to relax just for a moment? Let's take a breath in. And a breath out. Perfect, let's go through that one more time. So just going at your own pace. Let the feet separate. You're going to slowly allow the legs to drop away from each other. And maybe you're keeping your eyes closed this time, so it's more about how the movement feels. It'd be easier also to identify that point where gravity starts to take over and help you separate the legs, in which case the effort, the quality of the effort in keeping the movement slow might also change a bit. And you're just going to pause at that end range. Where's the end of this movement for you? Come out of that, maybe like half an inch or an inch. Pause and hold there. Maybe you wait until you've got a little bit of a tremble here in the muscles before you slowly start to bring the legs back together. Stacking the feet on top of the hips and just really feeling every last little detail and nuance of the effort there, the movement. As you slowly bring the feet back together, feel the entire leg just stack on top of the hip joint as the feet eventually touch. All right, so now as you do that, can you take a breath in? And even with the legs lifted on the exhale, can you soften through the whole inseam of the leg? Perfect. Release your feet down to the floor. Remove whatever prop you have underneath your hips. And then just briefly again, windshield wiper the legs side to side. Notice how things feel. Maybe there's already a pretty significant evolution between the start of class and now just a few moments in. All right, let's find our way from lying down onto hands and knees. So you could rock front to back or roll over to one side. And I'm just going to find your way to tabletop position and start a few rounds of cat-cow here. So now here's an opportunity to connect the movement to the breath. A really familiar and comfortable setting. Feeling the whole body coordinate after that pretty pointed focus on the pelvis and the hips there. Now feel free to continue with your cat-cow exactly like this if you like, or if you want to add on a little bit more, I'll give you a suggestion to add some front to back movement. So as you round the spine, and maybe you push the upper back forward and shift forward a little bit. As you arch the spine, maybe you shift the hips back. And if it feels more comfortable to do this with a slightly longer stance, you can also step your hands forward a little bit. Maybe that gives you just a bit more room to move and explore. Again, feeling free to pause in any position that feels interesting or helpful. Now let's take one more round, and we're going to end with the spine arched and the hips reaching back a little bit. Go ahead and pause there. Lower your forearms down to the ground. Let the head drop and just allow the spine to hammock here. Now, added bonus if you like, separate your knees a little bit more and just find a little tiny bit of sensation through those inner thighs. Not necessarily a stretch, but just some awareness there. Good. Take a breath in. And a breath out. Perfect. Come on back to hands and knees. Recenter the knees underneath the hips. Now we'll go through a little dynamic sequence here. You're going to take your left leg out to the side. Walk your right hand to the outside of your right knee. And then take your left arm. You're just going to drape that overhead and find a little side bend by pushing the left side ribs up towards the ceiling. Good. Now we're going to return back to the mat. Bring your left hand down out in front of you. You're going to sweep your left leg back and reach your right arm forward. You're going to be in bird dog. Now listen closely. Everything is going to stay the same, but you're just going to allow your left leg to drift over to the right behind you, like you're crossing it over the midline onto the outside of your right leg. Just go to the point where you feel your left inner thigh turn on. All right, keep everything the same. Bend your left knee. You're going to reach back with your right hand, and without catching hold of the foot, you're just going to actively tap the hand and the foot behind you together. Awesome. Reach your right arm forward, reach your left leg back, and then keep both the arm and the leg straight as you set the ball of the foot down to the floor. Set the hand down out on the floor in front of you as well, and you're just going to hover the right knee. Feel the front body engage there. Let's go through that a couple more times. So release the right knee down. You don't need to do any particular breath pattern here. Left leg swings out. Right hand moves over to the right. Left arm drapes overhead. Push the left side wrist up. Come on back to center. Bird dog. Left leg back. Right arm forward. You're crossing that left leg over to the right. Bend the knee. Reach back. Tap with the right hand. Good. Bird dog again. Reach. Keep the limbs straight as you set them down. Hover the right knee. Set it down. Let's go one more time. Left leg to the left, right arm to the right. Left arm drifts over. Back to bird dog. That little cross of the left leg over to the right. The reach back and the tap. Lengthen for bird dog. And then set the foot down, set the hand down, hover the right knee. And then however you like here, you're just going to find your way to downward facing dog. Right away, take your left leg up and back behind you. Take a breath in. With the exhale, step that left foot through. Drop the back knee. Let's keep the back toes tucked here. Come on up to stand. Interlace your fingers and take your hands to the back of your head here. Now a little bit of a spinal work. You're just going to take a lean over to the left. Feel the right side body stretch a little bit. Come back to the center. Take a lean over to the right. Good. Back to the center. Lean forward, pick up the back knee, and then see if you can form a straight line from your right heel through to the crown of the head here. Let's do a side bend here. Take a little sweep of the torso to the left, like you're shortening the left side waist. Back through center, and then over to the right. So I think of this like the movement of a snake across the ground. Back to center. Let's reach the arms forward. Take a breath in. Exhale, release the hands down. Step through top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold it forward. Inhale, come all the way up, reach the arms up. Exhale, hands in front of your chest. Now take your feet mat width apart. We're going to set up for malasana. Bend your knees as you come down. Now wedge the elbows to the insides of the knees here, and we're going to do a little bit of a pulsing movement. So squeeze the knees into the elbows. Feel those inner thighs engage again. Let's take a breath in. On the exhale, let go of the squeeze. Couple more. So inhale, squeezing the knees. Maybe even feel that connected to the low pit of the belly and a little lift there. Exhale, release. One more time. Inhale, find a little squeeze. Exhale, release. And then just fold forward. Turn the toes forward to the mat as well. Let's step back to plank pose. Find an inhale there. With that exhale, lower all the way down. Now untuck the toes. Follow your inhale to find a cobra. And an exhale to release down. Let's come up through tabletop position. And just give yourself around a cat-cow here. A little reset there. Now neutral spine. Let's take the right leg out to the side. You're walking your left hand over to the outside of the left knee. Sweep the right arm up and overhead. You're just letting it drape over the top of the head and pushing the right side ribs up towards the ceiling to find a little bit of opening there. All right, so that same flowing sequence. You're swinging the right leg back. Right hand comes to the floor. Left arm reaches forward. Cross the right leg behind you over to the left until you feel the right inner thigh engage. And just a bend of the right knee, tapping back to the foot with the hand. Good. And then extending again. Keep the arm and the leg straight as you set them down. Hover the left knee. Find a little bit of anterior core engagement. All right. Twice more. Finding your Parigasana side stretch. Right leg to the right. Back to center, bird dog. Cross the right leg to the left. Reach back and tap the hand and the foot together. Bird dog, reach again. Hand and foot come down. Hover the left knee. Set that down. Let's find the side stretch one more time. Back to bird dog. Little cross of the leg to the left. That light but active tap. The reach through bird dog. Hand and foot down, hover the left knee, and then downward facing dog. You're picking up the right leg as soon as you get there. Take an inhale, exhale. As you step it through, drop the back knee. Come on up to stand. Interlace your hands, take them to the back of your head. All right, so back toes are tucked here, which might help you keep the balance a little bit better too. Let's find a little side bend over to the right. We've got a little side bend over to the left. Feel that right side waist engage. Good, come on back up. And then pick up the back knee, lean the torso forward, find that connection, that crisp line from the left heel through to the crown of the head. You've got a little side bend to the right here. Pivoting through the center and then side bending to the left. Good. Straighten out the torso, reach the arms forward, take a breath in. With the exhale, release the hands down, step it through, standing forward bend. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's inhale to come all the way up. Take the arms up. Exhale, hands in front of the chest. And then set your feet up for malasana, whatever width feels good to you. Hands in front of the chest. Come on down, wedge the elbows to the insides of the knees. Now we're going to change it up a little bit here. Squeeze the knees into the elbows so you feel that connection, inner knee through inner thigh into the groin, maybe even a little lift of the hips if that connection carries over into the low belly there. Now we'll do the opposite. So again, there's not going to really be any movement, but you're going to try to carve the knees outwards away from the elbows, and then maybe challenge yourself by just floating the elbows off of the knees. Let's do that a couple more times. Elbows come into the knees, you're squeezing in, feel that inseam connect, and then try to carve the knees away and out from the elbows, hover the arms. One more time. Good, squeezing, inseam of the leg, and then carve the knees out, float the elbows, outside seam, maybe the back of the hip a little bit. Let's take a breath in. With the exhale, fold forward. So with the inside and the outside of the leg here, the hip should feel quite active. Let's take another inhale, lift halfway. Just find that long spine here for a moment. Exhale to fold. Let's step it back to plank pose. Now, can you feel necessarily, not so much squeezing the legs together, but just feeling the integrity of that connection, that little bit of healthy tension through the inner thighs here, and how that helps you to find that scoop in the pit of the belly. See if we can keep that as we lower down on your breath. Maybe there's a little bit of that here, even as you lift into your cobra. Exhale to release down. Good, tuck the toes. You're coming up tabletop or plank. Let's take it on up, downward facing dog. So take a moment here to just settle into your down dog. Your first kind of a actual symmetrical one so far. Let's explore the familiarity of the shape here. And we'll do a little bit more work to balance out the inner and the outside lines of the legs and the hips here, kind of what we started experimenting with in that active malasana. So with your inhale, take your left leg up and back. With your exhale, you're going to bring that forward to come to pigeon. Now we're not going to be resting here. Untuck the back toes and just lengthen that right leg back behind you. You're going to actively press down through your left leg and feel the hips and the torso lift a little bit. Keep pressing down, bring your hands in front of your chest, and then just find a little hinge forward of the torso. So this doesn't need to be a lot. You're just sort of testing that left hip's ability to press down into the floor and keep you lifted. If you get a little bit of fatigue, that's going to be not a bad thing here. Good. Maybe just take one or two more little hinges. And then you're going to release the hands back down and just allow that left hip to soften as well. Now from here, find your way into a low lunge. So you're just going to tuck the back toes under, pick yourself up so you can step the left foot through, and then drop the back knee. Now come on up to stand. You're going to rotate the whole left leg over towards the long edge of your mat, and then just drop into the lunge so that the knee is tracking diagonally over the toes. And just pulse in and out of that a few times until you get some healthy tension here through that inseam of the leg. If you want, you can also turn your chest a little bit over to the right. So you're really feeling that outside of the hip and the pigeon hinge. Now we're really connecting to the inseam again here, balancing the two out. Let's end dropped into the lunge. You're going to wedge your left elbow to the inside of the knee. Press the two into each other. Again, feel that really vivid, emphasized engagement of that left inner thigh. Option to take your right arm up. Good. Take a breath in. With the exhale, release the hands down, and you're just going to straighten out that left leg and come up to stand into a high lunge. Now check this out. So let's use the work we just did in this left leg to find a little bit more stability. Imagine the connection now from the arch, the inner arch of the foot, all the way up into the inseam. Feel that zip up starting from the arch of the foot. And then can you imagine a similar line from the outer arch of the foot into the outer hip? So can you feel these simultaneous lines of tension and support, like a pair of train tracks hugging in around your leg? Bring your hands in front of your chest. Let's keep that awareness as we shift forward and float the back leg to warrior three. Imagine that action of the inner and outer seams of the leg zipping up into the hip joint. Maybe you could even take your hands to the thigh and kind of guide the thigh bone up into the socket of the hip. Good. Let's take a breath in and a breath out. Now, super carefully, keep that support and that stability. You're just going to slowly step your right foot down to the floor behind you. Listen closely. Dip your right knee down towards the floor, but just hover. Keep your hips low to the ground like this. So you're just going to pivot your right knee out to come to horse stance. Now, in this symmetrical shape here, just pause and notice, how does your front leg feel versus the back leg, or left versus right? I just notice that. Maybe kind of gently bounce in and out of the shape to test it out a little bit more. Good, now let's work on the abductors of the back leg. So you're gonna come into a loose warrior two stance. The left toes are gonna be forward. Now, just to give you a little preview, what's gonna happen is that we're gonna come into a deeper lunge here, potentially with your knee going well ahead of the ankle and the toes, if that feels okay for you. So you're just gonna kind of test that out and see what works. Maybe you adjust the width of your stance in some way. And then refocusing on the back leg, let the inner arch of the foot kind of smush into the floor here. Now with that, from that really exaggerated position, you're now just gonna find that lift through the inner arch, up the inseam of the leg, really press down through that knife's edge of the back foot now. Your objective is to keep the zipping action through the inseam, that pressing down through the back edge of the foot. Don't worry about your hands too much. As you slowly start to drop further into your warrior two lunge, keep that right inner thigh zipping, zipping, zipping. You're just gonna go to where it feels tolerable. And then when you're there, press down through the sole of the entire right foot and try to drag that right foot towards your left heel. Whew. Okay, so can you balance the effort and the ease here? Good, just take another moment, dragging that back foot forward, and then come on out. Briefly flip to a triangle pose at the back of your mat. Let this just be really stretchy and loose for that right leg. So it should feel like a really nice release here. Maybe you're not even taking your left arm up towards the ceiling. It's that stretchy and easy. Good, and then just a brief wide-legged forward fold. You can turn your feet parallel. Again, just a brief moment of rest, feeling things out. Walk your hands back to the front of your mat. And let's go ahead and flow. So your choice, we'll just meet up in down dog. You can do a vinyasa of your choice or skip it. We'll all meet back in the same spot in downward facing dog. With your next inhale, take your right leg up and back. With your exhale, coming forward, find your pigeon here. So right away, let's activate this. You're gonna untuck the back toes, press that right shin down into the floor. Use that to pick yourself up a little bit. Keep pressing down. Hands in front of the chest. You're just finding that little hinge, keeping the spine nice and long. So it really is your whole torso just moving as a unit here. Good, continuing to maintain that steady downward pressure through the right leg. Just take one or two more little hinges here before releasing. Little moment of rest here. So just take a mental note of how it feels to engage through the outside of the leg here. As we balance that out with the inseam, you're finding your way into your low lunge. Drop the back knee. Come on up to stand, and then just rotate the whole leg out together. All right. Sinking into the lunge, coming out. So it's not really a bounce as much as a controlled entry in and out of this kind of little sideways lunge. You can turn your chest to the left if you like. And just testing the tension and the tissues through that right inseam of the leg. And then pausing in the lunge. Take your right elbow to the inside of the knee. Press the two into each other. Feel that really sort of active engagement, that very clear connection through the whole inner thigh. Option to take your left arm up. Good, take a breath in. And then with the exhale, let's release the hand down. Straighten out your right leg. You're coming up to stand in your car lunge. All right, so before we go into our warrior three, you're gonna find that connection from the inner arch zipping up into the groin. Feel those 2 points kind of connect, like you're tensioning the line in between them. And then can you do a similar thing on the outside, from the outer arch, all the way up into the outer hip. Hands in front of your chest. You're using this bilateral zipping up action to support yourself as you come into your warrior three. So imagine this kind of really lifted, buoyant sensation in that right hip. Maybe you're using the hands to kind of guide that upward movement of that lift through the inner and the outer seams of the legs. Give yourself a breath in. Give yourself a breath out. And then keeping that support there, even as you slowly step back with your left foot. Let's dip the left knee down. So you're getting nice and low to the ground and staying there. And then all you're doing is swinging the left leg out to come to your horse stance. Okay, so just feel things out here. Hopefully things feel a little bit more symmetrical side to side now. All right, and then switching to our warrior two stance. So right toes forward, left toe slightly turned in. Test your long stance here. So let yourself really sink in. Knee can go forward of the foot there if that feels okay, and then come on back. You're just gonna allow that left inner arch of the foot to really kind of collapse and smush into the ground. And then from this exaggerated place of collapse, you're now gonna find the lift instead as you find the contact between the pinky edge of the foot. Really kind of maintain that as you zip up through the inner arch into the groin. All right, so your job is to keep that, not allow that collapsing of the arch as you start to drop a little bit further into your warrior two. Keep sinking, keep lifting through the left inner thigh. And then once you're at your end range, you're gonna try to drag that left foot forward and really feel the whole inseam turn on even more. You've got just another breath here. And then straightening your right leg, flip your stance so you wind up in a triangle, back of the mat. And again, we're here just to release. So let that left leg be kind of stretchy, not locking the knee, but also not overworking through the left leg. And then feet turn parallel as you briefly pass through that wide-legged forward fold. And then walk your hands back to the front of your mat. You've got your choice of flow, just moving at your own pace here, or skipping it all together. We're moving up in downward facing dog. Take a big but relaxed breath in. And then just let that out with that exhale. All right, let's put this all together. You're gonna take an inhale, left leg up and back. Exhale, step it forward. Now drop the back knee, come on up to stand. And check this out. You're actually gonna heel toe your left foot in so that it lines up with your right knee. So right away it should feel a little bit harder to balance there, which is good. Let's keep the back toes tucked. Find a little posterior tilt of the pelvis. So feel the tailbone drop and tuck under. And release your hands, take them to the back of your head, and then just find that little lean to the left. Find that little lean to the right, so just experimenting here. And then come on back to center. Now you're gonna pick up the back knee and come up to stand, high lunge. Take the little side bends here as well. Good, now listen closely. Release your hands, take them to your left side. Can you connect with the zipping up of the inner and the outer arches of the feet, and then connect that into the inner and the outer hip here? Now let's keep that as we shift into warrior three. You're just gonna lightly float the back leg and then cross that right foot behind you over to the left, floating it off the floor. You're just doing enough to feel your right inner thigh engage as you kind of squeeze the thighs in and past each other. All right, staying on that left leg. You're now swinging the right leg forward slowly. With the knee bend, just cross that across the midline again until you feel the right inner thigh engage here. Let's go through that a couple more times. So you're sweeping the leg out, back, and to the left. Right inner thigh turns on. You're sweeping that out, forward, and to the left. Right inner thigh turns on. Let's go one more. And your left leg is super active through the inside and the outside this whole time. Let's pause with that right knee crossing across the midline to the left. Now bend your left knee even more. So imagine you're coming into an eagle pose, but actively just hovering that right leg off of the left thigh. Holy cow. Let's take another breath. And we're crossing that right foot back out, slowly stepping it back behind us. Find a little dip down of the right knee, and then just gently swing that right knee out to come to your horse stance. Should feel kind of like a relief here. Let's flip the feet. We're gonna come to triangle back on the mat again. Let this be stretchy and chill here. And this time, let's inhale to reverse. We're gonna exhale to cartwheel the hands down. Frame the right foot facing the back of the mat. You're stepping back to plank pose. Now, move through a flow of your choice, but we're gonna end up in tabletop position. Once you're there, you're gonna take your right leg out to the side, work your left hand to the outside of your left knee, drape your right arm over the top of the head, push the right side ribs up. And swing the right leg back behind you. Reach your left arm forward, bird dog. Cross the right foot to the left. Right inner thigh turns on. Bend the knee. Lightly tap back with your left hand. Good. And then bird dog again. The limbs stay long as you set the left hand, right foot down. And then again, downward facing dog. As soon as you're there, take your right leg up. Inhale there. Exhale. Step it forward. Forward to the back of your mat, that is. Drop your back knee. Let's keep the toes tucked. You're coming up to stand on your left knee. And then heel toe your right foot to the left until the heel lines up with your left knee there. Interlace your hands to the back of your head. Notice the added balance challenge here. Tuck your tailbone a little bit and just find that side bend to the right. Maybe you're going to find a little bit of an interesting stretch through the outside or the front of that left hip. Come up through center, side bend to the left. Good, back to center, and then pick up the back knee. Keep the narrow stance as you come into a high lunge. Find the little side bends here in either direction as well. All right, so set the hands down on top of the right thigh. Zip up through the inseam, zip up through the outer seam, and then shift the weight forward. Just gonna float that back leg behind you. Cross the left foot over to the right. Feel your left inner thigh engage. Slowly swing that left leg out. Forward and across to the right. So like you're coming into a very mild eagle. And then just repeating that a couple of times. So that slow, steady sweep of the left leg, forwards and back, finding that little contraction of the inner thigh as the leg comes forward and then crosses over behind you. For the last one, you're gonna pause in that hovering eagle. So imagine that you are just squeezing the thighs together as much as you can here. Slowly step that left foot back behind you. Dip the knee down. Stay nice and low as you spin into your horse stance. All right, so just feel things out there. Good, and let's go ahead and pivot into triangle, front of the mat. Again, just allow this to be really mellow here. And then inhale to reverse. Exhale, cartwheel it down. Your choice of flow. So regardless of Whether you're doing cobra or up dog, let's meet in that tabletop position. From there, you're taking your left leg out to the side, walking the right hand out, left arm drapes to find a little side bend. And then swinging forward to center to find your bird dog, left arm forward, right arm forward, left leg back. Cross that left foot a little bit to the right, just enough to feel the inner thigh engage. From there, a little bend of the knee, reach back with the hand, just tap. And then reach and lengthen again. Keep the limb as long as you set the hand and the foot down. Let's go ahead and take it up, downward facing dog. Take a breath in and a breath out. Find your way into a resting pose of your choice. Maybe it's child's pose or puppy. Maybe you're on your belly or on your back or seated. And rather than attempting to make the intensity go away here, whatever it is that you're feeling, wherever you're feeling it, see if you can instead just let yourself be kind of awash in the sensation of the work. Maybe it's possible to observe as the sensation potentially dissipates gradually. In the same way as you're just observing as the breath begins to simmer down. Good. One more moment here. Perfect. And then find your way up into a seat from wherever you've landed in your resting pose. We've got one more little bit of active work here for the adductors. So you could use your block or your folded up blanket here. Either one is going to work. You're going to come into a side lying position on your left side. And the legs will be kind of extended out in front of you. The block is going to be sort of placed in front of your left shin like this. I think the easiest thing to do here is just to support the head on your hand like so. And your right leg, your top leg is going to be supporting you. So you're just going to fold that and set the foot down behind you. Now we're going to be doing a really simple but quite targeted movement. So you are going to be feeling this a little bit. So just take it at your own pace and feel it out for whenever you want to take rest. So all you're going to do is pick up the left leg and smoothly arc it over the block. Tap it down and smoothly arc it back. Now, see if you can make the arc, like we did in the beginning, be kind of really controlled in both directions. You could make a slightly taller arc or maybe not so tall, but you're just going to start to feel some of that work through the inseam of the leg here. And the trick is really in finding the control. All right, so you're going to take one more little arc or big arc, and the next time that your foot is hovering over the block, pause there. You're going to slowly lower and tap the outside of the leg down and lift it up. Let's do a few more here. So maybe you're lifting a little bit higher if you want more sensation. Maybe you're lifting not so high if you want less. And then finally, let's pause with the leg lifted. You can point the toes here if you like. You're just making a little circle with the foot. Good. Just another moment here. And then go ahead and release the leg down. Briefly roll onto your back. Let the knees rest in towards each other. All right, and before we get too comfortable, let's go to the second side. So you're coming over into a side lying position on the right, moving the block so it lands more or less in front of your right shin here. Head is supported in your hand, and this top leg, the left leg, is the one that's kind of supporting you like a kickstand behind you. All right, so get nice and steady. And you're just starting your little rainbow arc motion with the leg over the block. And notice how the quality of the effort is different through each part of the movement, depending on whether you're using the muscles concentrically or eccentrically, whether you're lifting away from gravity or resisting gravity on the way down. Take one more pass. And the next time that the leg is hovering over the block, you're going to pause there, lightly tap down, and pick it up. Sometimes you've got to wonder how such a simple movement can feel this challenging. All right, and then we've got one last little bit. You're just going to pause with the leg lifted. If you want to point the toes here, you're drawing the little circle. All right, one more. Awesome, and then go ahead and release. You can move the block out of the way. You're just briefly lying down on your back, letting the knees rest in towards each other. All right, so that's all the work right there. From here, we're gonna head into approaching Shavasana. So if you wanna rearrange yourself in any way, now's a good time to do that. And we're gonna end in a restorative tree pose to really release those adductor muscles, the inner thigh. So here's where the blanket comes in handy. You can accomplish the exact same thing with the block. I just find the softness of the blanket to be slightly more pleasant here, but either will work perfectly. Go ahead and find your way down onto your back if you're not already there. Have your prop, your blanket or your block on the left side of your mat. And then as you come flat on your back here with the legs extended, leave the right leg where it is. Hug your left knee in towards your chest and then just let it drop out to the side. Have your blanket or your block meet the leg some part of the way to the floor where it feels really easy to kind of let that leg just drop and be supported. So maybe you're getting a little sensation of stretch here in that left inner thigh, but it shouldn't be anything so significant as to be uncomfortable or even distracting. You just want it to be super, super pleasant and mild here. And let your attention rest on the feeling of the pelvis just dropping here. Your casual awareness of a connection from just above that left inner knee into the groin. Maybe that whole area feels really awake and alert in a good way. Can you just invite a feeling of letting go? And perhaps letting that sensation begin to radiate outwards now in all directions. So it's going all the way down through the left leg into the foot and the toes, up into the pelvis and the belly. Now before coming to the second side, let's gently straighten that left leg out in front of you so that it meets the right in the sort of savasana position. Take a moment just to gauge things out here. Just carefully move your prop over to the right side of your mat so that as the right leg starts to come in and then eventually drop out, your blanket or your block is there to catch it. And feel free to adjust the height or the position in any way that feels good here. Priority being something that you can relax into. Letting the sensations of release in that right leg also travel down into the ankle and the foot. Seep up into the right side of the belly and even the waist here. And taking your time to come into Shavasana, maybe just first extending that right leg. Maybe this is where you stay. Another alternative, if it's comfortable for you, would be Supta Baddha Konasana, with the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. And you just want that to be something that you can relax into. Another great option here is the position in which we started. So maybe bending the knees, walking the feet a little bit wider, letting the knees rest into each other, and then just allowing that sensation of the inner thighs kind of hammocking or dropping. And once again, allowing those pleasant feelings of release from that very central core of the body, the hips, the thighs, the low belly. Imagining like an area of warmth there that's now radiating and spreading out throughout the entire body, all the way down into the toes, the fingertips, the face and the head. And just letting yourself be enveloped in that sensation as you come into your rest. If a longer period of rest feels like the best course of action for you, then you're welcome to continue with your shavasana and just tune me out here. If it's time for you to move on with the rest of your day, just start by gently making the breath a little bit fuller. So maybe connecting the awareness from the chest and the ribs down into the belly and even the pelvis and the groin. Feel free to come into some gentle movement. Maybe it's the windshield wipering of the leg side to side, or just stretching yourself long here. And then taking your time, feel free to keep your eyes closed as you transition into the side lying position. And from there, into the seat. And if a cross-legged seat is comfortable for you, maybe that's a really nice place to end. So you can feel a little bit of that passive lengthening through the inner thighs here. Otherwise, any other seated shape is perfect. Zooming out, just notice in the big picture, once again, how you're feeling, both mentally and physically. And bring your hands in front of your chest. Thank you for sharing your time and your practice with me today. Namaste. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here and for joining me. Always super interested and curious to hear what you thought, what questions or feedback you have. This was recorded, so it's going to go up into the Yoga Medicine Online library really soon as well. So you can always find it there if you want. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, and you guys are always welcome to let me know as well if there's anything specific that you'd like to see in Yoga Medicine Online, some things that are helpful to you or interesting to you. We're always looking for inspiration and to meet you guys' needs as well as possible as well. Oh, Gabrielle, thank you so much. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I love it when like little bits find their way into other people's teaching and practices as well. That's like the ultimate compliment. So yeah, feel free to let me know how that goes. I'm on social media and Instagram as well, so you guys can find me there. I'm just putting that in the chat right now. Yeah, so feel free to let me know how things go. Inner thighs, I know. Well, that's the thing. I feel like we don't really hone in on that area that often. It's kind of, we just take it for granted that those muscles are there and they're doing their thing. So when we do really like target them, it can be a little bit of a shock. Yeah, so I'm very curious to hear how that goes for your students, but they're going to be grateful in the long run that that you gave them something new and fun to try. Oh, Daniela, thank you so much. Oh, I'm so glad that you liked it. Thank you guys. Awesome. Well, lovely to see you all here. Thanks for being here. I'll be back same time in 4 weeks' time. Yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day and your week. And yeah, see you all soon. Thanks so much. Bye.